Well, we are now weeks into the mayoralty race here in Toronto, and among several key talking points on the campaign trail is violence on the TTC. Of course, we've seen recent examples in other transit systems right across the country as well. One local transit planner says this problem isn't new and is being addressed with some success in the U.S. David Cooper is the founder of Leading Mobility and joins us live here on CP24 Live at noon for a closer look at that. David, really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. So much talk about violence specifically in Toronto on the TTC. What are some solutions that you've seen that work and that you've developed as well that are working to help reduce violence on transit systems?
So I'm working on a national study looking at the drivers of transit safety and the number of different societal and complex factors in it, and also working with several transit agencies on developments of transit safety plans and programs. And what's been happening is there's been a lot of cross collaboration, a lot of information sharing between the agencies, both in Canada and the US. This is not a specific Toronto problem. This is an issue that's impacting transit across the country. One of the programs that has really risen in the conversation is a bit of a North Star is the SCOPE program in Philadelphia. It's a program that really speaks about safety and ownership, partnerships, and engagement, where you have everything from increasing staff visibility to increasing outreach supports and really engaging the broader community of the supports that are needed that is beyond really the purview of the transit agency themselves.
And sort of depending on some of the mayoral candidates running in the current by-election here in Toronto, David, a lot of them, or several of them, are certainly suggesting, well, let's just get more police on there, let's get more security on there. It sounds like from what you've looked at and studied that that's not necessarily the main solution.
It's a complex topic. And when we look at transit safety, there's a couple of key components of it. One is we have a number of things that are occurring on transit that's related to individuals who are unhoused, that's related to substance use, that's related to mental health, and those are not policing type solutions, those are outreach solutions. But also there are elements of criminality that does occur on public transit where you will require a policing conversation on that, where you need to curb dangerous behavior that is criminal in nature. That's a policing issue. But a lot of the other components that we have that's occurring on our public transit systems are very much on the outreach spectrum of solutions. And you can't have either or. It's going to be a bit of a conversation on both.
Right. And David, I'm interested because one of the big factors that always, comes into play when it comes to this is cost. The city of Toronto, for example, is facing a $1 billion hole in its budget. What are the municipalities, like, for example, Philadelphia, that you've talked about down in Pennsylvania, who have invoked a program like this? Is this costing them any more, or are they finding that there are actually savings or cost benefits?
There's a bit of a nervousness of transit agencies and municipalities really asking for help and support, and we will see more of that coming up, where there will be more of a direct conversation on that. A lot of the work in the Philadelphia program is really about calls to action. It's about calls to action to the state government. It's calls to action for public health. It's calls to action for housing. These are levers that are here in Toronto a provincial and federal responsibility, and we need the province and the federal government to come forward to the table to address some of the access to healthcare, to address some of the mental health considerations and the housing pieces, which are way beyond the City of Toronto's financial and organizational ability to fully address themselves. And it's something that we need to come to the table. It's in the interest of the province and the feds for transit to be successful. We've received operating funding support to help get through this pandemic, but we need that support from them on these levers that are really their responsibility.
Right. There's so many levels and layers to this. David, let me ask you this then. If, for example, this SCOPE program went into effect in Toronto, how early, how quickly do you start to see results? When do you start seeing the benefits of the sort of multi-layered approach here?
Well, the good news story is we're seeing elements of the program. We've seen increased staff visibility. We've seen several partnerships with community-based organizations on mental health and outreach support, but these programs take time. When we saw the data from February, where there was a launch of a lot of new programs and also additional policing, there was a slight decrease in the offenses against customers and offenses against employees, but we need time to tell. These are complex considerations that's going to require a lot of time and a lot of money, and we're not going to see immediate changes. We're going to have to see changes over time, but it has to be sustained. And I think that's the challenge, is that there's no quick fix to any of this, and it's going to require some sustained support and funding from more than just the city and the TTC. It's really about the province, the federal government coming to the table and helping cities address these complex considerations we have on our transit systems.
Yeah, we keep hearing that time and time again, David. No quick fixes indeed, but this certainly sounds like it's certainly one avenue to a solution. David Cooper, founder of Leading Mobility, thanks for the time and analysis this afternoon. Do appreciate this.
Thanks, Nick.